Test.
Okay.
Welcome to come a bit closer.
Does everyone have enough space?
Yeah.
Someone said you studied philosophy. Is that true?
Yeah.
How long did you study philosophy for?
I did it in my undergrad, so 4 years, but I wasn't just studying philosophy, I was also doing economics and politics, so like 4 years, but not very like diligent.
Okay. And after all that time studying, did you come to any realizations, any conclusions that you'd like to share?
I don't think conclusions would be the right word. It feels like a kind of process of every time I learn something or feel like I understand something, then I have more questions sort of thing. So it's a process of like learning more about the world.
Okay.
So yeah.
Like collecting knowledge and then putting your observation together.
Yeah, exactly. So I feel like I've collected more knowledge, but I don't think any of it has led to a conclusion, except just learning more.
And do you feel like you have a deeper understanding or more clarity of the world with that? Or is there more confusion?
In some ways, both. I like more clarity on certain things, but more confusion. Like I learn more questions and I'm confused with others.
So tonight's presentation will be an introduction to the psychology of yoga. Like all around the world, yoga has become very famous. Even in here in Whangarei, there's many yoga studios. Most towns have at least one yoga studio now, all over the world. But today we want to just have a very brief introduction of looking at what is behind just the physical movements and the actual psychology, what's going on in the mind space, what is the deeper wisdom and understanding behind these movements, where is it leading? Because today in the West, yoga has become synonymous with the physical postures, and that's what it's become known as. But actually, the yoga system is much more vast than that, and in the traditional system of Ashtanga yoga, Asta means 8, Anga means limbs, so in the system of 8 limbs of yoga, the postures, asana, is just one of them. It's just one small part in the bigger pie of yoga. So what are some of those other slices of the pie we want to touch upon today? So, yoga psychology.
When you enlarge it, so it's full.
It doesn't actually. I couldn't put it on a proper slide program, so you just have to make do. So here's two definitions of yoga. So Patanjali has given his definition of yoga in the second sutra of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and that's yogas chitta vritti nirodha. This one here. Yoga is the complete restraint in the fluctuations of the mind. So what that means we'll explain soon, and that flashes on. And Krishna has given a definition of yoga in Bhagavad Gita, Samattam Yoga Uchite. Yoga is equilibrium of mind. So in one sense, it's two ways of telling the same thing. So Patanjali, he has given the analogy that the mind is like a lake, very serene, very clear. If you've ever been to a lake, got lots of lakes in Canada, and so when you go to a lake on a very calm, beautiful, sunny day, and you go right up to the lake, what can you see?
Reflection.
Your reflection, right? But when the surface is very perturbed, very disturbed, like all the lakes out there today with the cyclone, the surface will be rippling. and you cannot see your reflection, right?
Yeah.
It's quite simple. So potentially, he has given the analogy that the mind is like a lake, and when it's calm, when it's clear, and when it's peaceful, our true identity can be inferred or reflected there. But when that mind is in a state of oscillation, in a state of disturbance, with so many thought waves going here and there, we cannot understand who we are. But when the mind is clear, then the seer is situated in his own true nature. But when the mind is in a state of turbulence, in the fourth sutra, Vritti Sukam Itirakya, otherwise identification with the fluctuations occurs. So Patanjali Rishi, he is one of the most profound psychologists in the history of the universe. Money back guarantee. Just hear me out, okay? Patiently hear with an open mind. So these fluctuations in the changing atmosphere of the mind, we identify with them. So these are also known as samskaras in Sanskrit. If you've ever done a vipassana meditation, they also use this term samskara, impressions in your consciousness. And in English we can say thought waves, thoughts in the mind, samskaras, impressions. And so when the mind is in a state of oscillation, we have so many thoughts moving through the mind, and our awareness becomes absorbed in these thoughts, and then we identify with the content of our consciousness, with our thought space, with whatever's moving through the mind, we identify with that. I'm from Canada, I'm from New Zealand, I'm a Hare Krishna, I'm a Buddhist, I'm an atheist, all just thought waves in the mind, and we identify with that. I'm a student, I'm a banker, I'm a surfer, I'm a hippie, all just moving. So the mind is in a state of oscillation, a state of movement like this. And then we try to engage and find a meaningful purpose in life based upon these moving thought patterns in the mind. But that's not really who we are. It's just a thought moving through the mind. And it may be a persistent thought or a persistent impression that you identify with constantly. I'm a surfer, I'm a shop owner, I'm this, I'm that. And they may have some relative truth, but it's not your true nature. And then so we are seeking deeper meaning and purpose in our life, but we're navigating our life through something that is ultimately not real, because you're not your thoughts. And so people are going here and there all around the world, looking for meaning, changing from one job, changing from one partner, changing this and that, trying to search for meaning. I used to work at one place, one international eco-retreat, and people would come from all over the world, all countries, France, Germany, South America, all the time. And it was by the ocean. So they'd come to learn to surf. And then they'd get into surfing and they'd think, yes, now I found my calling. I want to be a surfer. And then they identify with that. And they wear the hat and then they speak the lingo. So it's just another thought oscillation in the mind. I'm not saying you can't have fun, no problem. But we're always looking for something that's going to give us meaning and purpose. But as long as we're looking for that in the mind space, you'll never find that satisfaction that the soul is looking for, because you've already lost your true identity. Because Patanjali is pointing out here that you're either in truth situated in your own nature, or you're lost in your mind. It's pretty black and white. It's quite profound when you think about it. So of course we think, oh yeah, I'm in my own nature. But we want to understand the workings of our own inner psychology a little today. So we've talked a little bit about what are these fluctuations in the mind, and then we also want to get some techniques of how to overcome them, or how to overcome identifying with these fluctuations in the state of the mind. Because when we're engaging with the world from these oscillating thought patterns, we never find any meaningful connection, and we can never satisfy the heart. And so often in life, because we're not taught this in education systems, we're taught how to be programmed and how to interact with the world from our programming. And the different programming collides together and has conflict, like we see going on so much today. So I want to give a little introduction for those of you who don't know about what's called the three gunas, or three modes of material nature. And this is something very practical, very helpful in life. So many Vedic schools, they share this commonality that there is three prominent categories of energetic movement in this material creation. So the first one, that is known as tamagun, it's a very dense, slow, heavy energy. And then the next one, rajagun, that is movement, dynamism, passion. And the next one is what's called sattvagun, an energy of clarity, stability, and calmness. So we can give some practical example. You've had a very late night and be drinking with your buddies, and then you have to wake up in the morning, and you wake up dull, heavy energy, in a state of inertia. And then what do? You have to go to work, you have to go to study, you have to go to your job. How are you going to get some energy? Coffee, cappuccino. So then you reach for your cappuccino, and then that is liquefied rajagun, because it's got sugar, it spikes everything within you. So then your mind's darting here and there, cannot focus. So most of us in our conditioned state, we're oscillating between these two energies, inertia and passion. And maybe periodically, for a short time, we may touch upon some sattvagun. Because when you study, when you concentrate, when you're doing your tax and business, you have to concentrate, you have to focus. But it's becoming increasingly pandemic around the world, attention deficit disorder. Because when we're scrolling on our phones, it's cultivated. We cannot concentrate, we cannot focus. And if you cannot focus, if you cannot concentrate, you cannot understand any topic thoroughly. It doesn't matter what field you're in, you cannot understand it thoroughly if you cannot be absorbed in it. And so our young people, it's a very sad world that they're being brought into. So much stimulus. You know, there's entire like rehabilitation programs for children these days to rehabilitate them from addiction to video games, to social media, all these sorts of things. So most of us were oscillating between these two energies, but occasionally we may touch upon some sattvagun. And let's maybe reflect a little for a moment and just see where these three energies may be showing up in our own life. And they're not just a psychological energy, they are all pervasive. Even the whole matter, the form, is also comprised of these three energies. So everything all around us these three energies in different proportions. And we should also be clear that these three energies are never completely separate or independent. They always have some mixture of the other energies as well. Like three strands of a rope, three strands make one rope together. So these three energies are always at play. We can give one example, like in the night time, tamagun comes, the inertia. Without it, you cannot sleep, right? If there's too much rajagun, you close your eyes, but your mind's like la 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 la, cannot sleep. So we need that inertia, that tamagun every day to go into deep sleep, because you don't go into shushupti, deep sleep, you go crazy. So we need some tamagun. And if there's no rajagun, you couldn't even get out of bed. So we need some rajagun, we need some fire. If there's no fire inside, there's no digestion. And you cannot, through fractional distillation, digest your food. So we need some rajagun, even in the body. Very, very profound, these Vedic sciences. And then sattvagun, we need clarity, we need calmness, we need some stability. To be in a constant state of stimulation, very unsettling for the whole adrenal system. Sure. You need to add some coriander to that. So, would anyone like to share where do these three energies, or maybe one of them, show up in your own life? Because we don't want this to just be some philosophy, like it's very practical, it's very relatable, and it doesn't matter what your background. This perspective is a very helpful tool, whatever is your worldview. Rajagun's coming 9 o'clock tonight. That's the storm, yeah?
Storm Rajagun.
The storm is Rajagun.
Raja, Tama?
But Raja always descends into tamas.
Yes.
So it's like a comet flying through the sky and it descends down into tamas. Like, what do people do, particularly young people, Friday night? Let's go to the pub! Rajagun! Liquefied Rajagun! And then they play the loud music and everything, and then what happens? 1 o'clock in the morning? Ooh,
Yeah.
asleep on the pavement. So Rajagun always descends into, I know you guys have never done that, but maybe you have a friend. So,
Well, the night is Tamas and Raja is the day, no?
mhm.
Like when the sun rises, we start Rajas.
When the sun's starting to rise, that's actually more sattvagun. But then as the sun increases, because that's rajagun, right? That's fire, literally. That's fire rising
That's
in the
fire,
sky.
yeah.
So the peak rajas, in terms of the cycles of nature, of the cycle of the day, that is 12 p.m. lunchtime. And then the sun's going down, and also at those sandhyas, those junction points, sattva's coming. So if you meditate at the junction of day and night and day, very powerful time for meditation,
Yes.
because things are more in equilibrium. And you can go deeper into meditation. Because these three energies are not so equivalent at those sandhyas, those junction points. That's why we're doing Gayatri mantras at those junctions of the day. How else might these energies turn up?
The food?
The food? Absolutely. Can you give some example?
Well, the food will give you some heat with the Rajasti.
Like what?
Tea?
Tea? Chili?
Spices,
Yeah. Ginger?
Ginger,
Yeah.
yeah.
chili, for sure.
Water, because the body is made of water. Maybe you need some, for example, you need a good vibration, so you have the right source of water. Like sometimes they have fizzy things, so that creates a bit. But if you have normal pure water, like Ganga Jal,
Mm.
not the filthy Ganges water. But the more purity you have, for example, if you're having meditation, if you have water there, after your meditation, You have that really gives you calm and that balancing in my sense of some practice.
Yeah, this is absolutely true because you guys probably know this study of Dr. Yasumoto in Japan, how he was putting certain vibrations in the water and they could see molecularly through the photos the different shapes that the molecules were taking. And our body is over 73% water. So this is very powerful. So when we're taking the fizzy drink, that is water, but it's also rojigun, sugar inside. So that what we're taking is literally also injecting these different energies into us through very important the food aspect. So we're going into a bit of Ayurvedic science now. So things like frozen food, deep fried food, this is tamagun,
Tamagun.
inertia. Rojigun, takeaways, salty, sweet. So it perpetuates that energy psychologically in the mind as well. And then when you have the pure water, from the spring water, from the rainwater, that
This
is
is sattva.
sattva, and it's nourishing the body and it's bringing that energy into clarity, calmness. So we can also charge that with the water. That's why we bless everything. I mean, that's becoming nirgun beyond the gunas, but it has a sattvic component to it as well. So in that food tradition, they had indigenous culture, they had some way of blessing the food, karakia
Yes.
prayer, and this would nullify the lower energies and bring clarity to that food that you're taking. Because you know, every person who's handled your food stuff, their energy is imbued in that. The truck driver, the shopkeeper, the cook, Gordon Ramsay. I mean, who wants to eat his food, you know? Like, crikey, that rush you're doing in there. So these are very practical, and we're just giving an introduction today, but, you know, when you go home, reflect upon this. And you'll see, if you try and sit down and meditate after you've had 2 liters of Coca-Cola and some big chocolate bar and everything, just how your mind's racing. Or you have the junk food, you know? So, you know, in the Ayurvedic aspect, sometimes we need to increase the fire because in Ayurveda the digestive fire is very important. If your furnace, your fire is not going, how can you digest your food? So often you need to increase the agni, increase the fire, but you want to do it in a sattvic way, not mountains of chili. You can have ginger, you can have black pepper. That's a more sattvic heating spice than chili, because chili makes the mind also more agitated. So, are you getting some feel for it, or is it too much abstract? Would anyone else like to share any thoughts on that?
One practical insight about shopkeeper, because I'm a retailer.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience, for example, the parenting side, you know, parents come with the kids and they want to have lollies, fizzy, and all that. And then the thing is, what it says, no, you're not going to have that. You're going to have an apple. Apple keeps doctor away. Apple a day keeps doctor away.
Yeah.
That's a theory they're trying to drive through, but the kids say, no, I'll have the apple juice, you know.
Yeah,
Without
yeah.
lolly. So that kid, man, and the parents share thoughts like, geez, when I give you too much of fizzies and all these lollies, they create so much hyper and they are super active all night, not sleeping,
Absolutely.
jumping like a monkey.
Yeah. And you know, we're so lazy in modern times. Like even the apple juice, you know, that's more sattvic than the more pure than the candy bar. But the apple juice is also somewhat in the mode of ignorance because we've extracted it and we don't want any pith, we don't want any bitterness. So we're removing the entire package that nature's given to assimilate that thing, and we just want the sweet, tasty part. So that's in the mode of rajagun. So you can be sattvikally rajasic, you can be rajasically tamasic, but there's so many mixtures of them, you know. And so, like, you know, in orange, we will take vitamin C from the container because to cut out the orange, oh no, that's too much effort, and then you've got the white bit inside, and I don't really like the white bit, so we'll just take the orange juice. But nature's given something, a complete holistic package there, and just by abstracting and taking a part of it, that leads to so many imbalances in the body. And now we're having so many synthetic copies of the naturally occurring element in nature, and then that just creates so much ill health in society. So all of this is Tama and Rajaguna. That's why there's so much, oscillating. Personalities in society, the leaders, war. This is Rajaguna. Ego, pride.
Yeah.
So in the next one, so here's some mixture. So we're going to look at now a little bit of these three energies and how they affect mind and concentration. So that tamagun, that's the energy of dullness, inertia and heaviness. What is our cognitive process when that energy is prominent in the mind space? We feel dull, we feel hungover, we feel in this state of stupefaction. You can't think.
What do you mean dull?
Dull means like, I don't have the French translation, but I think you can understand.
It's like stupid?
Yeah, it's like sleepy, too tired to think.
Like when you've woken up,
Inertia.
when you've, which you've never done probably, but if you've had too much alcohol and you wake up the next day and your brain, how your mind works.
How you feel after your Saturday work shift? That's like,
Tired.
I'm not able to think properly and I need to lay down.
yeah, that's tamagun. So then the next one, when rajas, that mode of passion is prominent in the mind space, then the Sanskrit term is called shikta, wandering. The mind's like a grasshopper. Here and there, you can't focus really on anything. It's just like, I'll listen to the radio and I'll check my emails and I'll eat the candy bar and I'll reply to this and I'll call my friend on the phone and I'm driving and whatever. So many,
Too much.
163 pages open on my phone, so many things, all taking up so much space of the mind, draining energy. Because the mind's going everywhere at one time, cannot focus. This is called shikta, wandering. So the next one, when Rajasana is in the mind, but there's some sattvagun also, then that's called vikshikta, or occasional concentration. So when you're studying, when you're at work, you have to concentrate. But then maybe you're concentrating for some time and then you just have to look at your phone. Because you just need that injection of Rajagun. Because we need that dopamine hit. Because there's a prominence of the Rajagun in the consciousness. And so we can only hold our concentration for short amounts of time. It's a very sad state that we live in modern times. So also, for those who are more serious about spiritual life, this has many profound implications. Because you cannot understand philosophy, you cannot understand religion, you cannot understand your own tradition when you're in these three states. And even if you're reading Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, Mahabharata, you cannot enter into them deeply because the mind cannot focus. So, from our perspective, just to give you some background, we understand that there used to be a global culture, and that culture was called Vedic culture. And they had very, very high elevated knowledge in many fields and sciences of life. And this global culture used to be around many parts of the planet. And then, as the consciousness has become more degraded, as the cycles of time have gone on, that Vedic knowledge has been preserved best in the land now known as India. So people think, oh, this is Indian knowledge. But actually, it's been preserved best in the land now known as India. But that Vedic knowledge used to be very widespread in Cambodia, Afghanistan, Russia, Europe.
Yeah.
Many places had Vedic knowledge.
Yes.
And so Sanskrit used to be the mother language all around the planet. So this Sanskrit language has immense power in it. And one of the great poetic works of Vedic culture is called the Mahabharata, 100,000 verses of poetry. And the Iliad of Homer, it can fit about 11 times into the Mahabharata. So the Vedic corpus of knowledge is very, very vast. And actually all of the main Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, they all had a connection and inspiration from different Vedic philosophers. And basically they have repackaged particular Vedic perspectives in their terminology that the people of their particular location could understand. So this is a very interesting field of research, just touching on it lightly today. So these three states, you can't understand nothing in truth, and that you can get some superficial relative knowledge, but actually you can't get any profound knowledge, any vidya in these three states. So Patanjali has defined these two only are yoga. Yoga means union, connection. So you can only actually connect, have the true understanding, the true revelation in these states. And remember, we're talking about states of concentration, cognitive ability. So what is this ekagra? This is one pointed concentration. So it's a prominence of sattva guna here. The clarity, stability is in the mind. You're not distracted about, oh, did I turn the oven off in my meditation? You know, did I pay my power bill? What am I going to have for lunch? None of all that thoughts are gone. And you can, whatever you have introduced into your mind can really penetrate deeply into that. And you're not thinking about it, you're thinking of it. You know, most of us, we've never really had an experience of that before, or just very, very likely. So, another way we can describe that, actually, see if I can find that here. Yes, so these are the 8 limbs in the Ashtanga Yoga system. So the first one, yam and niyams, they are basically observances and moral codes, kind of like the 10 Commandments in Christianity. But the reason they're there is they create a harmonious lifestyle that the sattva guna naturally arises, and you can concentrate and you can understand who you are, where you come from, and what is your purpose in this world. So sometimes, 10 Commandments and these rules and regulations, they're just trying to stifle my fun. But they have a profound psychological impact as they bring harmony to your life and they bring clarity and focus. So those two are the prerequisite to then practice asana. But what are we doing? We're jumping straight to asana. That's okay, but without these two, which have 5 subdivisions each, you won't get the profound actual effect of the asana. And Patanjali has described asana as sthira shukham asana. Asana is where you can sit comfortably for a prolonged period in meditation. Because if you're sitting down and think, oh my back, oh my knees, you can't meditate, you know. So to sit comfortably, sthira shukham asana, for a prolonged period, this is asana. That's the actual definition and the purpose of the asana postures, to sit in meditation comfortably. So this is not religious, and I'm not saying you have to believe in this one. It's very simple mechanics of meditation and psychology. So then the next one, pranayama, breath control. As is your breath, so is your mind, it says in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So you'll notice when you're angry, when you're in anxiety, your breath is going very rapid pace, right? And when you're calm, when you're focused, your breath is relaxed, long and steady. So by consciously controlling your breath, you can control your mind. So this is the practice of pranayama. It's slowing down the mind. Let's take a deep breath in. And then breathe out through the nose. Again. One more time. Breathe out a little bit longer this time. So by elongating the outgoing breath, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system and your entire body begins to calm down. It's a great science. So this is the fourth limb, pranayama, breath control. And then pratyahara, sensory withdrawal. So at the moment, our senses, taste, touch, sound, smell, sight, and the sixth sense is the mind. Everything's going outwards. Eyes are going out, tongue's wanting to go out, genitals are wanting to go out, everything wants to go out and touch and engage with the world. And then the mind, which is the king of the senses, that we're always on the manorat, riding the chariot of the mind, and the mind's going through in the Brahmanda Parikrama, going all around the universe. Giddy up on the chariot of the mind, right? We're always doing this. We should be doing Brajmandal Parikrama, but we're doing Brahmanda Parikrama, going around the universe in our mind all the time, you know? So the process of yoga is to bring the mind inside, like Krishna gives the example like a tortoise withdrawing its limbs into the body. Because sometimes we think, oh yeah, I'm contemplating the world and I'm trying to fix the problems and world peace, so I'm really introspective. Is this introspective or not? What do you think? I can fix the problem in a round. I can, if we instigate this modality, this philosophy, then this will be.
There's a lot of thinking on it.
Is it introspective or not?
It's outward facing.
In one sense you're inward, but all your thoughts are extroverted. They're all going out towards the mind, trying to fix the world, this and that. So it's just another form of extroversion. So we may, oh yeah, my friend's really philosophical, always thinking, always reading, but it's always just out
That's
the
so
content.
true. Yeah.
So this is extroverted. What people know, call this is extroverted consciousness. So what does it mean to be really going inwards? So then, dharana, that's why I brought up this chart, dharana, concentration, because we're talking about focus, right? So this is the sixth stage, dharana. So it's also been described that dharana is when you can be fully concentrated on something for 12 seconds. Seems pretty simple. 12 seconds. So carrot, think of a carrot. Not thinking about thinking of a carrot, just fully carrot in your consciousness. Ice cream, it's probably more easier. And then, so actually potentially gives a whole list of things that you can focus on. The sun, on a crystal, but the most powerful thing to focus on is Ishvara, God. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So when you can focus on something for 12 seconds unbroken, that's dharana. Then you're starting to harness some power of the mind. And then the seventh one, dhyan, meditation, when you can concentrate on something for 12 times 12 seconds. What's that? 144.
2 minutes, 22 seconds.
So when you can concentrate unbroken 12 times 12 seconds, 12 dharanas, then you're starting to just dip your toes into the meditative state. But it's so blissful and powerful, that feeling. It's very profound. And the more you get a taste of that, then the pleasures of the world become like a stagnant water in the hoofprint of a cow. Very minuscule. So where were we? This one. So dharana, we're starting to concentrate the mind now. And then whatever you introduce into your consciousness in this state of ekagrita citta, you can get profound revelation of that on so many levels, on 7 levels, and this is the 7 levels of samadhi. I'm not going to go into that today, but you can get a total understanding of the inner workings of something, the understanding of the atomic structure of it, the understanding of the atomic structure that underpins all of creation. And then you can understand the mechanisms of perception themselves. And that's called Sananda Samadhi. And in that stage, when you're getting revelation of the actual mechanics of your own perception, it's called Sat Nanda. What's Ananda? Bliss. There's more bliss in understanding the mechanics of your own perception than anything material that they can perceive. Think about that. There's more bliss in understanding how your own mind and senses are working than having sex, than having chocolate. There's more bliss in it. It may seem so, well, that's a bit far out, bro, I don't know. But these sages, they're not joking. I've had profound experience of it.
Yes.
So this is Sophia, love of wisdom. So very powerful things, insights we're sharing here today. So I think we'll have a little break now, and we'll go into a little practice of concentration. So in those 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, there's the yams and niyams. And one of them, these observances and moral codes, and one of them is called Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya. So Swadhyaya, sometimes it's described as self-study. So sometimes people take that, particularly in yoga courses, as kind of internal psychological reflection, which is very useful, but are you your psychological programming? No, because what are these? Chitta vrittis, these are oscillations in wave modulations in your mind space. So you're not your trauma. You're also not your positive experiences. None of these are the content of your consciousness, but it's not you. You're not even your body. Whoa, that's far out, what do you mean? Because every 3 to 7 years, all the cells in our body are renewed, including your brain cells. Yeah? So everyone here has had at least 3 bodies in this life. So which body are you? The 7-year-old? The 14-year-old? Which one are you? No. You are much greater than the totality of this material body. You are Atma, eternal soul. And that soul is animating, giving animus, life to this material. Because when the soul leaves, what happens to the body? It returns back to the elements. And if you've ever had a loved one pass away, it's a very tangible experience. That loved one's there, they may be on the hospital bed, but when that Atma leaves, that soul leaves, we know it's not the same. Something has left. That's your soul that was giving life to your body. That's who you really are. But we're in such a perverted, upside down state of consciousness that we think our coverings, I am my body and I am my psychology. But these are just coverings. So self-study means to understand who I actually am. This is Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. It gives profound knowledge of your soul, scientific knowledge of your soul that you will practically not find anywhere else. So everyone should very much be very familiar with Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. And great thinkers of Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, they were all, even Albert Einstein, they were greatly informed by the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. So, and it gives an overview of all philosophies and all religions on the planet. So not what sane person would not at least look at Bhagavad Gita. Very powerful. So this Swadhyaya, Vedic study, we should understand who is the self. I am soul. Okay, what is soul? We come up with some vague idea, which is just another oscillation in your mind. Your idea you have about your soul is not your soul, it's just your idea about your soul.
That's
So then we need an actual practice that will give us not only knowledge about our soul, but actual experience, actual revelation. Yeah, because the proof's in the pudding. You can talk philosophy, go belief system all day long, but until you get experience, then you will know for sure. So we need to have a practice that has the potency to give us the experience also. So, Swadhyaya. So, Patanjali here said, Swadhyaya Ishtadevata Samprayogaha. Not only because another aspect of the Swadhyaya is Vedic study. Vedic study I just alluded to, Bhagavad Gita gives scientific knowledge of your soul. But another aspect of Swadhyaya is Japa. Japa is a form of meditation. And in the West, it's known as like, you have a rosary. The Christians have their rosary, the Buddhists have a bead, and people chant a particular mantra or a prayer on their beads. Even in Islam, all the major religions of the world, they all have this rosary meditation. In Sanskrit, we call this japa meditation. So we're going to do a little practice of this japa meditation now. And so, not only does this japa meditation have the potency to reveal to yourself your own soul, but this is so powerful with the mantra that we will be reciting that it can link you with your Ishtadevata, that is the soul of your soul, or the supreme conscious reality, the supreme being. So not only can we understand our own soul, but what is our relation to the supreme reality? And what is the nature, the personality of that supreme reality? That is Swadhyaya. So we'll chant this mantra, which we just learned, Hare Krishna. So how it works. And one definition of Japa Yoga is
Mano mantra, mano madhye stito mantra, mantra madhye stitam manah, mana mantra, mano mantram.
Mantra is that which delivers you from the oscillations of your own mind. These swirling whirlpools and the wave formations in the mind and the thoughts and the identity, because we're always deriving our sense of identity through our mind. Our political view, everything is all just through our mind. So that which delivers you from being enamored with that content of your consciousness and situates you in your own soul and your relationship with the Supreme Soul, that is japa. Very profound practice. So you'll see on your japa mala that some of them is more pronounced on some malas than others, but there's a big side
No, not in this one.
and then there's a small side. On some of them there is. So it doesn't too much matter if there's not. But and then there's a head bead, okay?
Yeah, is that true?
So we don't chant on this head bead, we go to the one next to it. And then we chant one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we go all the way around, and then when we get to the top, we turn back around and we go back. So it's like this, back and forth, not the whole way around, back and forth.
We never
back and
close
forth.
the two.
Mm. And then another thing is we chant on this, not the index finger, not this one, but on this next one down. Why? Because when we get really angry, what do? I'm going to go to war with you. I'm going to exterminate your entire civilization tonight. Ego. This finger represents ego. So we don't want to be on the platform of ego. We will come to the next level down. And in yoga is such a science. In this finger, there's a nerve in this particular finger that cultivates concentration and focus. So just by stimulating that, you're cultivating the concentration of your own mind, you're harnessing the power of your own mind. Vedic science is profound. So we're going to do one repetition of this one japa, 108. There's a whole nother science, this 108. I gave a class in it in India one time. The meaning of 108, very profound as well. So we're going to try one japa mala of this Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Are you ready? So sit up nice and tall. Relax the knees, bring some length into the spine.